What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Flex. It is now week 8. You are making your playoff stretch runs, and I am here to help you, to tell you who to start in your Flex, hence the name, The Flex. Listen, if you want to ask questions every Monday, Dustin has a waiver wire video. What you do is you just drop a comment on the YouTube page during his waiver wire video. I then check those comments. I then copy those comments. I then paste those comments in an email. Our graphics department puts everything together, and then we produce a show which you're about to watch right now. It is the Flex Week 8. Let's get it. All right, our first question comes from Drew, and Drew wants to know who to start in the Flex Standard League between Nick Chubb, Mark Ingram, and Tariq Cohen. And if this was PPR, I think my answer would be different, but it's standard. So therefore, I'm telling you to bench Tariq Cohen because it's standard and you're not getting any points for the receptions that he's going to have next week. Jordan Howard is still in the picture, limiting Tariq Cohen's touches. He had 8 receptions, but he only had 4 carries. I expect that trend to somewhat continue for the rest of the season. I'm sorry to tell you that, you Tariq Cohen owners and Tariq Cohen truthers, but Jordan Howard's still there. And as long as he's still there and you have Tariq Cohen in standard league formats, I just wouldn't trust him completely. He is a nice flex play every once in a while, but given the choices here, I'm going to tell you to bench him. Now, Mark Ingram, to me, is a certified running back 2, maybe even low-end running back 1, depending on how he finishes the year. But last year, he was a running back 1, and that Saints offense looks exactly the same this year. I expect him to continue his success from last year, even though last week he didn't do much against probably one of the better defenses in the league, the Baltimore Ravens. So it is forgivable. Now, he's on the road against Minnesota, who is also one of the league's best defenses. They're playing better as of late, and I still think he's a decent start, but I don't think he's a better start than Nick Chubb. Listen, I know they're in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh doesn't give up too many points to fantasy running backs, but it is a division game. Nick Chubb is the man there in Cleveland. He saw 18 carries. He's going to be involved in the passing game, even though Duke Johnson is there. He's going to see at least 20 touches. I mean, and the Browns, they run the football when they get to the goal line. I think he's a threat to score every single week. In standard, touches matter. Being a bell cow matters. I would start Nick Chubb over Mark Ingram, but I would find a way to start Mark Ingram if you can. I think he's a start every week, but given the options, go Nick Chubb. Don't look back. Start him the rest of the year. Our next question comes from JTDN1, and he or she would like to know who to start in the flex between Golden Tate, T.Y. Hilton, Alex Collins, or Taylor Gabriel, half-point PPR. So first, let's address Taylor Gabriel. Last week, the Bears put up 31 points. That offense is a lot better than I thought they'd be, than you'd probably thought they'd be. But it's hard to tell who's going to have a big week. Mitch Trubisky is a socialist quarterback, which means he is spreading the wealth to every single one of his receivers every week, and you never know who's going to have the big week. Therefore, I am sitting him because you're asking me between Taylor Gabriel and Golden Tate and T.Y. Hilton. I like Gabriel. Keep him on your roster, but he's more of a dart throw, and you're asking me more about consistent options. Just leave him on the bench this week. He might go off. He might not. We don't know. I don't know. So I'm just not going to start him. I'd rather go with someone who's more consistent. And someone who's not consistent is Alex Collins. Stop asking me about Alex Collins. He's not someone you want to be starting unless you are absolutely desperate. He averages about 50 to 60 yards a game. He sees about 10 to 12 touches. You are relying on him to get a touchdown. And it happens. I'm not saying he's not going to have a touchdown. Just predictability and probability tells me that there are better options out there, especially when you ask me about Golden Tate and T.Y. Hilton. Now, between Golden Tate and T.Y. Hilton, I like T.Y. better personally. Andrew Luck has been throwing the football a lot. Outside of Eric Ebron, he really doesn't have a reliable target anymore. T.Y. had 2 touchdowns last week. He didn't have the yardage, but I think that's going to come. He was drafted high for a reason. I think his ADP was about 2nd, 3rd round, depending on your draft. And it's for a good reason. T.Y.'s been producing with Andrew Luck pretty much for years now, and I think he's his favorite target. I think Andrew's going to look his way in the red zone and outside the red zone as well. He's going to have a big rest of the year. So I'd start T.Y. Hilton. Golden Tate is not a bad option. Seattle secondary is not that good. So if you can find some type of way to start Golden Tate, I'd start him too. But given the choices, I'm going T.Y. Hilton. All right, for our next flex question, Undisputed Frost, nice name, wants to know who to start in a flex between Philip Lindsay, Joe Mixon, Tariq Cohen, or Kerryon Johnson. Standard, and I'm going to echo what I said about Tariq Cohen in the first segment. It's standard. He's not as valuable in standard leagues. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry. Bench Cohen. Phillip Lindsay. I like Phillip Lindsay so much, and it pains me that he's splitting carries with Royce Freeman because he severely outplayed him last week against an Arizona team that is the worst team in the league, giving up points to running backs in a great matchup. Now, Kansas City's the same thing. They are a horrible defense. Phillip Lindsay might get in the end zone, but given the choices here, I'm not sure I'm going to choose a guy who's in a crowded backfield. It's not just Freeman there. Booker's there every once in a while, too, for whatever reason. And it's kind of hard to trust somebody when you don't know when they're going to get goal line touches or not. So, Phillip Lindsay, I like him. I would start him on most teams, but you've given me different options, and I can't say that I trust him more than someone like a Joe Mixon or a Kerryon Johnson. Now, Kerryon Johnson, I like a lot too, but LeGarrette Blount vultured him last week and continues to vulture him, and it makes no sense to me. But as long as LeGarrette Blount is in the picture getting goal line carries, you really can't start Kerryon Johnson over a Joe Mixon, who is literally the only running back there in Cincinnati. They revolve their offense around him when they're playing very good. He is very viable in the passing game. He's going to see at least 18-plus carries at any given moment against anybody. So I would start Joe Mixon. I think he's a low-end RB1, RB2. I think this is easier than you think it is. You have good options there at running back, but Joe Mixon's a must-start, and you got to start him in the flex. All right, our final question comes from X Roachman. Nice name. He wants to know who to start in his flex PPR between Buck Allen, Aaron Jones, and Chris Hogan. Now, Chris Hogan, I was so high on Chris Hogan going into this year. I thought he'd be a consistent target for Tom Brady, but it just hasn't turned out that way. He is now 5th in the pecking order. Let's see. Edelman, Gronk, James White, and now Josh Gordon, and then Chris Hogan. Listen, Brady is Brady, and he's going to be successful every week, no matter who he plays against. But when you are that far down the line, I don't think you are trustworthy in fantasy football. I don't care who your quarterback is. Do not start Chris Hogan. Now, Buck Allen. You heard what I just said about Alex Collins. Now, double that with Buck Allen. He had 6 touches last week. 6. That's it. I know he gets in the end zone every once in a while, but someone who has 6 touches in a week should not be even thought of starting for you. It just shouldn't happen. So, given the choices here, and you watching the flex in past weeks, you should know I'm an Aaron Jones truther. Start Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is the best running back there in Green Bay. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Aaron Rodgers knows it. Well, everybody except Mike McCarthy, for some reason, knows it. He's going to break out. I'm just saying it right now. He's going to break out at some point because Mark McCarthy is going to have to realize, McCarthy is going to have to realize that he's the best running back there in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers wants him to play more. He's the most dynamic player there. He's going to break out. And even if he doesn't this week, given the options you just given me, I think he's still the best play. Start Aaron Jones. Hold on to him. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. The breakout is coming. All right. That does it. Hopefully Aaron Jones breaks out this week, so like a genius. If I don't, let's try again next week. I'm sure someone's going to ask me about Aaron Jones next week. He's been on here every week. You can watch Dustin's waiver wire video every Monday. Drop a comment on the video. I look at those comments, and that's how I decide whose questions I will answer. So, every Monday, Dustin's waiver wire video. Then tune in here for the flex to see your questions answered. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter at Josh_Rodriguez_. I will answer your questions there to the best of my ability. So, until next week, good luck, and I'll catch you for week 9 of the flex next Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see.